Okay, we'll get started on the June 20th Airport Commission meeting. Roll call.
Neil Johnson,
Here.
Greg Collier,
Here.
Andrew Barker, Joel Gardner,
Here.
Steve Smith,
Yes.
Bill Schoonover.
Here.
Greg Willoughby.
Here.
Approval of minutes, May 16 minutes.
Move to approve?
Second.
Second approved. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Anyone in the audience like to address the commission? You come to the mic. Update from Summit.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Just briefly, looking at jet fuel and avgas sales for May over April, in total we're up 9%. So looking good, even though, as you know, we all had some pretty nasty weather last month. We still did all right as far as sales go. Comparatively to last year, down about 13%. So looking at other airports in the region this year versus last year, I think there's kind of been a general downturn in overall general aviation that has been coming into just this area. Not sure about the country, so I think that's kind of where those numbers are coming from, just less people flying than last year. A lot of people are starting to get word that the restaurant is opening back up, getting really excited. We're still turning the normal 2 or 3 people away every day that don't know it's even closed. But we've got a lot of people who keep coming back knowing that it's about to open. So I know we've heard, looking like the second week of August, we're going to know if it's open. So that's kind of what we've been telling people, getting real excited about it. We got people who are saving the date and all that, and just coming in and spending more time at the airport in general. Unless you have any questions for me, that's all I have.
What seems to be the problem on the restaurant? Because I thought it was ready to go.
From my viewpoint, where I'm at downstairs, I think it's just getting all the contractors in order, getting things lined up. Today, I've seen more work today than in the last couple weeks. They've got a new bar put in. A lot of guys are working this morning. There's somebody up there now that's painting a mural. So that's looking pretty good. So a lot of stuff is happening now. That's about all I know.
Have you got any signage up there or anything that's indicating when it might be open?
We don't. I want to get a hold of Jeff and see if he would like to make us a small poster for, once he knows what date he wants to really open. I know he was talking about a soft opening and all that. But once he has a definite date in mind, to get us some posters, something that we can really start advertising, because we're getting, like I said, families in all the time just to be at the airport and hang out. So if they have something to look at and look forward to, I think we can just drum up a lot more business. And just working with him in any way that we can to make it as much of an event as we can, his opening.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank
Thank you.
you. Bill, you have our,
Yes, sir, I do. Right now, all our hangars are full, and we got about 30, 35 people on the waiting list. I did talk to Jeff Mann today, and he is still looking to open up around the second week of August. Granite countertop went in today on the bar, the new bar, and they are doing some murals up on the walls. And he just wants to get everything together and maybe have a couple trial runs before he gets open. He's still waiting for his liquor license. And he just wants to get everything and do everything right.
he's about 6 weeks out.
Yes, maybe earlier.
Okay. What about the terminal roof?
All the roof material is on site. It's in the parking lot, coned off. Jeff is just waiting for a good 4 to 5 days of good weather. He doesn't want to open that roof up. If it rains, or if it's possible, going to look like a rain, then we're going to have more of a problem than we already have. As soon as we get some real good weather, 4 or 5 days out, then he's gonna start on the roof. And he has to work through the weekend, he will get it done.
Sounds good. Anybody have any questions?
Just on the hangar rent, we've got Jonathan Rose that pushes the envelope. Got one unit that's 90 days past due, and then we've got Aaron Stahl that's got a unit that's 90 days past due. Are we going to go ahead and push them?
He's already left.
Which
Didn't
one?
he moved to Little Rock, Jonathan Rose?
I talked to, actually, I talked to 3 of them in the last couple of days. Aaron Stahl, I was told that he paid up on June 10th, so he is taken care of. That's what county clerk told me, or city clerk. Also on Frickers,
Right?
I finally got a hold of him yesterday. I've been trying to get a hold of this guy for the last couple of months. Finally, he answered his phone yesterday, and I did call him, and he said he'll be in the third week of July to take care of that bill. Jonathan Rose, he said he'd be in next week.
Yeah, because I noticed that this is dated 6/6. Aaron paid on 6/10, then this is
He
outdated.
should be all done, yeah.
And then the balance owed on the aging report on the second page, does that now become a write-off, or is that something we're going to pursue aggressively? 7,200.
Pardon me?
The balance owed on the second page, out of hangar balance owed, Neil, Mitchell, Keith Lee, and Gilbo, is that something that we pursue aggressively, or is that going to end up being a write-off?
Those are just there. They haven't done anything for a long, long time. It's been carried for years now. And we talked about,
Time to uncarry those, then that's my question.
What you're suggesting, let's get it straight on the books and quit carrying it or get it collected or set it
It's,
aside.
I mean, if these are multiple years old, why do we have this reminder sitting in
Good
front of
question.
us all the time?
Good question. We've talked about that before and supposedly put it in a category that reflected that.
Right,
So we could either just let it disappear, which would be certainly less confusing, or make it clear of what we're doing with,
I don't know if the city attorney is still doing anything with that.
yeah, well, she indicated she
But
was.
this has been
I don't
3
rem-
years ago.
Oh, but
Last time she was here, I believe she addressed all these, that they were still in the process of being
Right.
worked.
Okay.
okay. So as long as they're
Well,
being worked, keep them on there, but if there's none of them, if any of them are not being worked, it would be my recommendation that it's an official accounting write-off.
I'd like to see it kept in the archive somewhere, where we could always go back and see what we did right off, or if that,
Right,
Probably ought to invite her back next month and see if we can.
I think that'd be a good idea. I was going to suggest that. Let's extend an invitation to her and let's get an update from her. you know.
very good. I
Okay.
agree.
well, that should work. Anything else, Bill?
Oh, that's about all I have.
Okay. On the activities report, fuel sales, it's obvious that why they would both be, the fuel sales are didn't drop below the line, but they're right there kind of the mainstream, but they are low, what we've been experiencing. But the activities report is something that is easily understandable. We have not had weather that would be good for a lot of the air traffic that we have in the general aviation and in the flight training programs and stuff. There's just been days and days and days that's not going to happen. Well, that would be reflected in that as I see it. So I wouldn't be too concerned about the activities report or the fuel sales at this point. Number 7, page 7 and 8, I'll let stand by for themselves. Wyman isn't here, he usually speaks to this. I haven't absorbed it. So if you have any questions on it, we'll entertain it.
Do we know what our grant money is sitting out there?
Yeah, you have about 200,000 waiting on reimbursement from the state. That should be the majority of it, and maybe another 100,000 from FAA, just waiting for some closeout documentation. You'll get reimbursed for all that.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, update on the Spring Creek detention.
What about the properties?
What about what?
Update
Oh, I'm sorry, I was reading that to go in conjunction with this. I don't have any update on
I noticed that there's signs in front of those properties now, property of Springdale Airport.
we're waiting on,
We-
research back, so for demo, I know that.
I know what they got, the asbestos reports, and they're clear of that, so it's a matter of, and last month, we talked about taking it to the fire department and stuff like that.
Fire department was there Saturday, but they were just milling around the outside.
I think the police and fire have both had an opportunity to go in and do some training,
Oh.
from what Wyman said.
So they're using the facilities for
Back for
training.
the fire department train and burn them down.
I don't know,
I don't think they will because of the proximity
too
of Emma.
close, yeah.
That's what I was
But they've been
told.
doing training.
But this one they burned over here on Huntsville Street, I'm not so sure these aren't
Yeah,
as far back as that one was. So I would like to,
I thought it was the asbestos we were waiting on.
No, that's been cleared.
No, I know, but I'm saying, I thought that's why we were waiting to all clear on control burn.
I think the asbestos has been cleared, it's just the fact that they were letting the police and fire use for training.
Rain real good and burn it.
well, it's not hurting, they're not hurting anything right now sitting there. I mean, we don't just have to have it at this point. So let them use it as long as they can, and let's hope we can talk them into burning. Catch the winds just right.
Are they keeping them secure, after hours to keep people from camping out in them at night, that type of thing? Is that any concern at all?
I have signs posted on each piece of the property over there, just letting people know to stay out of there. I do know we have to have signs posted before we can do anything to anybody. But doors are being left open. People are going in and out of there. I was over there today to check on them, and you can tell people's been staying in there. So, it's kind of hard to keep them out now because all the windows are about broken out. Unless we get them boarded up.
Well, I was just, a little bit concerned about any sort of illicit activity that could be taking
I'm
place
just
in
afraid
there.
kids are going to get in there and get hurt.
I did.
Or kids,
Oh, okay.
messing around.
Well, if
in
that
there.
demo, if we approve that nullify.
For
the
whenever
burn.
they're done, yeah, for whenever.
Would it be an ordeal to board them up?
Well, not if I know that the fire and police are not going to go back in there and do what they got to do. I've been over there when they were over there going through. They knocked some holes through the roof, knocked out windows.
All three.
Doors were locked, so they had to break the doors,
Shows
not
each one
down, but
individual.
open.
Each one is individual, looks like.
We could put some plywood up over the doors, but I just need to know maybe if they're going to come back over and do any more training.
Right, yeah, I hate to go to the expense and then,
Yeah,
then.
I don't want to spend the money on plywood and have to turn around and,
Exactly. But, I was involved recently in a situation right here on Emma Street where a person had literally made a camp in an open door in a building that I was in weekly, and we didn't even know that person was in there for a period of time. It was amazing.
I can get with Brad and James and see what they suggest and see what they want me to do.
Might walk through it at midnight or a little after and find out surprise attack on it. Most usually that's kids and stuff that'll go in there.
And that's what I'm leery about, kids getting in there, getting hurt.
Other than just boarding it up, I wouldn't know any way of doing it.
Just boarding it up, putting plywood up over the doors.
Just need to check with fire and police and see if
Yeah,
they're,
they may be done.
There is glass all over the place on the inside of the units, so that's what I'm afraid of. The kids are gonna get in there and get cut, get hurt.
Maybe we could ask for permission from the commission to board it up when and if they get through with
Okay.
it. We would like to entertain.
Well, I would say that we get the thing boarded up, get those things boarded up as quickly as possible, and at the same time, we start moving aggressively to get those things torn down.
That's the best remedy.
Yes.
We've got a price for demo on it on page 9. We could address that today.
Let's address it today.
Or wait till we talk to the police, see if they're through with it, or probably the best would be to take them down, huh?
You could approve it on a contingency.
That, yeah, we could approve contingency basis of them.
I mean, all the electrical's down off the houses. They tore that off, so it's,
I'd make a move that we proceed with the destruction of these things on the contingency that the police and fire are done with them.
And I would recommend going with the cheapest bid because
Absolutely.
the end results is
Same.
Yep.
same regardless. I mean, quality of the work, that's their problem, how they did it, how they go about disposing and everything, but that's what I would recommend.
Do the contractors have to satisfy a city something on this demolition? So the end result is the same, it's not left with a pile here
I don't know if the specs
or the leveling of the ground?
be to make it, leave it mowable would be my idea. I don't know what the specs is gonna call for, but at least get over it with some sort of a mowing, equipment. I don't know if you could hold them to putting it back in Bermuda and similar to a lawn or not, but,
I
at least.
get- My question is, what spec did these guys bid on?
Me?
They all had the same bid spec to make this bid, so there has to be some end result that is it mowable, is it level? All of the debris removed,
tear down or remove.
tear down removal, but nothing about prepping the lot after it's removed?
Well, they go in there with bulldozers. They will back grade the
Okay,
property.
so basically they do it bulldozer level.
And they
bulldoze
just
down,
seed
clean
it.
it up.
I'm sure they seed it. They would have to seed
They will,
it.
yeah, there'll probably be extra costs than, yeah, seeding and straw.
Seed it. A good example would be where they tore down the San Jose, would be basically the way they leave it. And then you go in there and if we need anything beyond that to mow it with whatever we're gonna maintain it with, then maybe, I just don't know. I didn't write the specs and I haven't seen them. But, it's kind of like this, you'll know it's finished when you see it. You know, they're not gonna leave big boulders and
No.
pipes sticking up out there and all
pay
that.
them until they're done.
Pardon me?
We're not gonna pay them until they're
We're
done
not
with
gonna
it.
pay them till it suits us anyway, sure. And usually a deal like this, those guys, they're not out there at the end of the job, they want their money, they're not gonna leave the trash.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
This is,
Well, the cheapest one is
I-
22,000
may I
versus
amend my
18 for
motion?
one of them on the highest, so.
my motion would be that we accept the low bidder in this case and move forward as quickly as possible with the removal of these buildings, and in the meantime, ensuring that police and fire are done with them, so we don't make the expense on boarding them up.
I think that's a great motion.
I'll second that.
Second. Motion second. Any more discussion?
Do we want to, are we going to ask the fire department if they want to burn them down, or we can burn them down? I don't know that we've ever got a clear yes or no on that.
Then that will change our destruction right there, because now we're gonna have to have somebody coming in, we're gonna have to rebid it, they're gonna have to do the cleanup.
Right, but, I
Fire
mean,
department will burn it, they won't clean it.
if they burn it, then what would our cleanup cost be? I mean, would we be saving money by allowing them to burn it?
I'm gonna tell you, I've
One
done
bid's
some of
half.
this, and that low bid is,
Is
It's
a
half
good
of what
bid.
the others are
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly,
That's
yeah.
why I say it's $22,000 with the low bidder for all three of them, and it's $18,000 for one, the high bidder for one. So,
those are good bids.
yeah.
Okay.
My motion still stands.
Any more discussion? If not, roll call.
Smith,
Yes.
Schoonover,
Yes.
Willoughby,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Collier,
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
Okay, now we're ready for the Spring Creek Detention Project. Who's gonna speak to this?
Our detention engineer says they can accommodate just about any shape. It looks like it will work.
I can't,
When-
I'm not hearing.
They can design the detention pond to accommodate y'all's desires for your development, unless it moves from what we saw last meeting. They've been put on hold pending, I think the mayor's talking to the neighboring property owners, and there may be something to change some configuration, so it's in the works. As soon as we know exactly what you all would like to build, well, we'll be able to revise our detention to meet those requirements.
Well, I would ask this question. You're only addressing one thing of how it affects future building at the airport. It does nothing to address the fact of the bird danger that is associated with water. And I know that water disappeared. I understand that, but it stays there sometime for days. And
No, it'll meet the FAA requirements, is the condition of the detention pond design.
That's 48 hours, isn't it?
48 hours or less, it'll be drained.
I just know what birds can do to airplanes. And if there's other alternatives on this project, and I understand from the get-go there was, and I find it just really irresponsible to go in there and do something that has any sort of negative effect on that airport, because we can't move the airport. I mean, there's been a lot of effort went into that in the last 30, 40 years, getting it to where it's at now. And I just feel like it would be a mistake to go in there and do an iffy project. You know, yeah, it can be done there. It's probably the easiest, the most inexpensive place to locate it. But you can also make that same argument for about anything out there. Or is the city gonna elect to go ahead and do it with a lasting, indefinite negative to that airport, as I see it? That's my opinion. Certainly like to hear comments.
Well, my question on this whole thing would be, the detention is due to the fact that we're actually putting more impervious surfaces there, correct?
Pardon
So
me?
the detention is the detention due, that's my question, to the fact that we're putting more impervious surfaces right there?
No.
No.
The detention's being done because the development downtown is in the floodplain now. And this supposedly will remove the floodplain from downtown if we stop the water up here.
At least hold it for a while.
Yeah. The city developed downtown, but they developed it in the floodplain.
And if we meet the FAA requirements of 48 hours, what is the biggest concern that we have? We're meeting the federal requirements, we're meeting a city request.
I don't buy the fact that it doesn't affect what our plans are for the future, because that's a lot of land down there that would be affected. And you have taxiways associated, you have numerous things associated with the development of that down there.
It could limit the development of that area off of Emma that we just bought, long-term, depending on how the airport grew.
Now, we could go ahead and do what your question is. You could go and say, we're gonna allow the design as long as it meets what is required as minimum for the FAA. But my question is that the right thing to do when there's other options? That's simply my question. And have they looked strongly at other options to eliminate this site, move it somewhere else that wouldn't affect the airport at all? See, that's my goal, is not to have any effect whatsoever on the airport.
The only viable sites are on airport property.
Pardon me?
The only viable sites for this detention project are on airport property. We looked at one on the east side. The one on the west side was the best location. And that's what we brought to you 2 years ago. So this is moving ahead. So I would suggest that y'all have this discussion with the city council, because they're leaning on this. They're anticipating this project moving ahead very quickly. Their
Why can't
development
we put it on
timelines
the
that are
east
based
side?
on it.
I've
Because
not got a
if you're-
clear answer on that.
If you're between there and 265, that's property we're not gonna be able to use.
Right.
And it may be a little bit more inconvenient, but in the long run, it sure seems a lot more.
It wouldn't affect the airport.
Right.
It may be
And
more
it-
costly,
And it was an alternative at one time.
yes.
We can go back and look, but I think if you did the detention on the east side of the airport, that's not enough to do the job, and we'd be doing something on the west side as well, as
Well, you
I
got-
We've
recall.
also got area on west,
You got
on
two
that
spots on the
drainage
west
area.
side,
Huh,
yeah.
Pardon me?
Yeah, they got two spots on the west side anyway.
Yeah.
Is this drawing relative to what we're talking about?
Yeah.
That's what
You
was
can see
provided to our engineer.
It's in the light blue shades. That's actually the topo on it.
Okay, so this, in the light blue here, are the two areas that you want now with a taxiway going between them?
That's the latest proposal, yes.
And see, there's even an area on to the south of that second one.
Oh, yeah.
Could, in my opinion, could be looked at and utilized.
So, Neil, the area you're looking at preserving is the one that's on the north end, right next to Emma,
And
and the middle one? Okay.
those are large structures. Those are huge. And what happens, everything enters in with a good idea. It's designed to not have negative effects on anything. Primarily, let's talk about geese that we have in northwest Arkansas by the thousands now. And they like water. And yeah, I know you've seen them everywhere, not just necessarily confined to one location. It only takes one good bird strike to take a jet out there or go through the windshield of an airplane. And we're talking about 48 hours, water staying in there. You can't convince me that those geese, once it's just damp or a little pothole out there, which will form, you'll not have a perfectly level bottom of this after it's been there for 4 or 5 years, and you're gonna have water pocket. And then you run back into the possibility, and I'll just say that, and possibility that we could have a serious effect. Now, I'm going against that by saying it wouldn't affect us over on the east side, which I'm not happy about that either, but it certainly it doesn't affect our development. This both affects our development and the safety issues. And we've dealt with design on this airport for years and years and years based on safety. And especially birds that we spent a ton of money down on the south end of the airport just to eliminate that issue. Eliminate trees and things of this nature just to keep the birds. And we've done a good job. We haven't had bird issues out there in several years since we cleaned that up. But I know I have a strong opinion. I'm not trying to persuade anyone. I'm just trying to voice what I see in it. And then I would like to hear comments from all the commissioners on it and see if we should even take the objection any further or just stand back and allow it to happen.
I share Neil's concern. I live out just off of Harbor Avenue, and there's a very, very large detention pond that I'm assuming is as big, or these are gonna be as big as the one right out there in front of the football stadium at Harbor Avenue. And there are geese that congregate in that detention pond area regularly. And I'm not talking about one or two. Of course, all it takes is one or two to have a problem. But I agree with Neil that they are an attractant. And I've also got a comment that our friends up in Bentonville have been in the news here in the last couple of months to a great extent about their issue with geese in the immediate approximate area of their airport that to me is a very similar set of circumstances. Yeah, they've got a pond up there that's going to be a further attractant, but they've got a problem with geese up there too. I agree with Neil. I think we're creating
I don't know if you can rank these necessarily, but to me, everything we've been working towards for years and looking to acquire this property, expand what we've got, now we're going to have to potentially look at rerouting things as we grow. I think I don't know if it's a bigger issue, but that's definitely as big of an issue.
So is this drawing to scale? Do we know if it is to scale? The one that shows the 100 by 100 pad, 75, is that all to scale according to, that is, Adam? So looking to the east of the drive where the actual words are controlled access, Brad, is that something right there that can be developed into, instead of two long, or two polygons, one long one that goes from here down to here, that moves us all the way over to the east side. So basically take that, can that go in this area alongside the driveway?
Discussion about this property. We're working around, we don't.
That's the problem.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
this could be a detention back in here. We're talking about this up in here right now.
Yeah, I may help
Oh, no.
bring some clarity here. So if you remember this exhibit, which I think y'all have in front of you right here, that was something we developed in about 4 hours to put on a CIP so we could justify the FAA buying that property in the northwest corner of the airport. This is by no means what it's going to look like. And when I spoke to Wyman after the last meeting, I said, hey, I just want to make sure you're aware that this is one way it could turn out. This isn't going to be necessarily the way it does turn out, because we haven't even done feasibility on it or anything like that. This was just a sketch up of what it could be. So I want to make sure y'all know that. We haven't done any design on this or anything. I sent it to FTN after the last meeting, 'cause they reached out and said, hey, what all do you have? So I sent them this version, plus there was a second version, which was developed assuming that the airport couldn't actually use that larger parcel that's a clear open field right now, because it's not actually owned by the airport. So we kind of put a sketch together for that too, because we really just don't know what we can and can't do with that property. I think even Brad is alluding to that, in that there's discussions that maybe the pond could go on the back corner of this, and they're having to work through that property owner to determine if that's a possibility.
So then my question is, why, there was a comment a while ago that this is moving forward, we should visit with the city council. Have they got this rendering and this is what they're looking at?
Oh, I don't know if this is
Yeah. Yeah. Ask him if he can come back to the mic.
The city council has the rendering that was submitted to y'all about 2 years ago, and they've said move ahead with that project at this point. So, from an engineering standpoint, it can be adjusted however, but I would say that the two entities need to come to an agreement on what's being built.
I'll repeat what I said last month when you brought and said it was starting. When we first heard about it 2 years ago, it was a possibility. We didn't know it was going to happen, never came back in between that time until last month, and you came in and said, we're doing it. We weren't included in the loop anywhere between the first time 2 years ago, this is a possibility. And then last month, you came in and said, we're doing it. I mean, so we haven't been included, we haven't had input. We didn't like it 2 years ago, and we voiced that approval 2 years ago. We didn't like putting a diversion pond on the airport. We, you know, to the best of our knowledge, we didn't know what was going on with it. And so now I feel like we're being pushed into a corner, approve this, guys, because the city needs it when, and I agree the city needs it, you know, but I would think they'd had this lined up before they developed downtown. They knew they were going to need it, but it's kind of pushing us into a corner, but it's not good for the airport.
Well, typically, when you're developing land, you're dealing with detention and everything, you have to receive what's coming to you. And I think a lot of this is private development downtown too. So what I'm seeing here is a luxury that most private developers don't see is that cities make exceptions, says, well, oh, we'll take care of your water that's coming to you upstream. And that's not typically the way that the water's handled. I think you agree with that.
There's two
it's
ways
handled on
that
site.
we can deal with detention.
Huh?
There's two ways that we deal with detention in our regulations. One would be where individual property owners provide their own detention, and the other is where the city determines that regional detention is the appropriate
Sure.
solution. So far, the city council has directed us to design regional detention in this area.
So all of the downtown development is going to be done by the city.
No. It's private development. The regional detention will be done by the city.
But the city, apparently, I think what I understand about it is dealing with the entire Spring Creek drainage project, and that's what this is a part of.
Yes.
And you're trying to lessen water at certain stages down that, as you go down that creek.
Trying to remove the floodplain from downtown Springdale.
And that's why I have asked the question. Of course, we don't own that property south of the taxiway that they're showing to go over to that supposedly stage one. We only own the property on the front that would allow us to put in a very small facility right now as far as the footprint. But it affects taxiways, it affects, again, the safety of the bird issues, and it affects future development if we should acquire other properties. And again, I don't like the idea of on the east side, but I'd certainly rather see that explored than proceed with this. And I will ask you this too, does anybody know what's coming up before the city council at the next time they're going to be exposed to this? Is it already on an agenda to go ahead and move forward with construction, or it's right now we're in design phase?
Design.
So I guess a recommendation from you would be visit city council and see if they would like to entertain asking the engineering firm to look at other options.
They've already looked at other options.
And there is none.
This is the best one of the several.
Best as in being the least expensive, or?
Most cost-effective
That's
for the
what
project.
okay. And I'm sure that engineering firm took into account how it affected the airport negatively. In cost. You're talking
Because
basically
in the
hard
long run,
cost.
it might not be cost-effective if airport develops the way we'd like to see it develop.
Well, you're blocking future development there. And, so, I think that's a fair recommendation. That we do ask to be on the agenda. I don't think we have any other option at this point because, I mean,
That'd be
they've got
committee
the
meeting.
charge of, city council got the charge of doing
be
this
the committee
downtown
meeting?
drainage.
Yeah, I would say a committee
And
meeting.
we can certainly appreciate
Check with
that.
the mayor, because he's got something in the works. He put us on hold. And he's out of town, and I've been out of town, so we haven't had a chance to visit. He's back? Okay.
Is there any formal or informal meetings or discussions prior to, without going to the city council and that could be, where we could be allowed to maybe be a little more educated on this project and why, ask some questions and things of this nature to the engineers that's involved and
I would visit with the mayor in Wyman, because they're the ones who told me,
I'm going to be back tomorrow.
bring everybody up to speed on where we are on this project, so.
Yeah, because I'd like to see the other options that were less viable. Because this is the only thing we get to see. We haven't seen, well, we could maybe do this, we could maybe do this other thing, and maybe we could do something on the east side that's gonna cost us $100,000 more or something. But I'd like to
The
be,
original study report was provided to y'all 2 years ago, so we can get you another copy.
I
All
don't
the
remember,
options?
maybe it was and we didn't, we
I don't
just
remember
didn't.
that, but
maybe
I
it-
remember somebody coming in and just mentioning that they'd like to.
Kind of a, here's
It
what
was-
we're gonna
that-
do and
that's
here's
what
how
I
it may
said.
affect it.
It wasn't this is a definite thing, this is something that might happen, we'd like, and then until last month, we'd never heard another thing about it. It's kind of like us daydreaming and then talking about our development, and we haven't done anything, and then if somebody were to, it's just a kind of a shock.
The next committee meeting is July 1st.
I'd say visit with the mayor if he wants to
Yeah.
put it, if he
We
put it
can-
on
we
the
can
agenda
visit,
at the
yeah.
appropriate time. In the meantime, we can get you all a copy of the study report.
I don't care if we sit down and talk to Mayor and ask him about this committee meeting. So, we appreciate you,
or
your
can we
time.
just have an audience with the mayor at some time?
Allow us the opportunity to see what those other options are. I don't think that's being unreasonable to ask to see what those are.
If I get
And
that report to you, can you
where they
distribute
are.
it? Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Adam? I know you're on vacation, you're wanting to get out of here, so
We'll make it
what do you
quick.
got?
And I did talk to Wyman late last week. I knew he was going to be on vacation this week, and just gave him my thoughts. And my biggest thought was on this detentioning is again flexibility. I can't guarantee that those taxiways are going to be where they're shown because we haven't designed anything yet. And so any opportunity to push it to the back end of the property, away from the runway, and then away from the development where we could have all the frontage would be great. And Wyman acted like Brad said, there's been some discussions with the mayor to even start discussing that to see if that's a viable option too. That'd make me feel a lot more comfortable. So with that said, the concrete apron paving project is out for bid right now. It advertised on Sunday of this week. We will open bids on that project the 11th of July, about a week before your next meeting. We typically open bids the day of your meeting, but on this one, because we expanded the scope a little bit more than what we had in the original budget that we have a grant under, we wanted to get bids in ahead of time, so if we need to do any negotiation or we look at extents, once we get bids, we have a full week to do that. So once we get bids, we'll evaluate the costs and come to you with a recommendation for award and maybe even some adjustments to the plans, just depending on how bids come in. So we got 3 contractors right now, already pulled plans from our website. I hope we'll get a few more. We'll start pushing it, and then hopefully when we come to you next month, we'll have a recommendation of award and can get going. The good news is that the Arkansas River went down way faster than they thought it would in Fort Smith, so we didn't really see a huge effect on materials like we thought we were going to. I think I mentioned it last week that there was a chance that concrete could be a month or 45 days behind, which is not the time you want to bid something that's concrete when that's happening. But from what I've been told, almost everybody's up and running again. So not too worried about the concrete price based on that information. Any questions on that project? Again, that's one of your state 9010 projects. I think it's your only state project right now, 9010 project. Sorry, the roof project also going on right now. Forgot about that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
You. Old business, I got a little old business. What, we know that we extended that hangar start time out there on the south of the airport, but I just don't see any progress being made there. And I don't know what our position should be even. I mean, the guy's paying rent on the real estate, and that's all we ever expect to get out of it. But the only negative I see about it is where else can you go and tie up the development for that? And maybe we look at it, if something happens down the road a few months or years, and we've lost opportunities to advertise it for someone to aggressively build hangars. Because I know all that's been done is basically a little dirt work. And I know there's been several excuses, and we did extend that understanding, I guess is the way I put it, a couple months ago or 3 months ago. That's all I had on that, but just wondering if there's any thoughts on it, everybody be thinking about it.
Could we invite him to come before us next month and just kind of tell us?
I would like that. I know
Where-
James has
where he
been
is.
talking to him periodically and been updating us on it, but that's, and he was here once. You have anything, Bill?
I know he did get a couple of truckloads of construction in for the hangar that he's building now. You're talking about Jeff Mann?
Yeah.
You got a couple of what now?
Truckloads of metal, steel.
Steel?
So it is out there on site.
It had some hangers bought, and they went ahead and brought it, apparently.
Right,
Red
but they-
iron?
Yes, yes. It's out there on site. Concrete pads poured on the first one he's doing now, so.
Indication that he hasn't abandoned it, for sure. But
I know the weather's been a big factor. We've had a lot of rain.
okay. Well, I think we still ought to ask him to come next month and just give us an update. Is that fair?
Yes.
Any other comments from the commissioners? If not, then we'll adjourn. And Bill, get well. I guess y'all know Bill's got a leg
Ready.
he's had surgery on, and he's not getting around very good.